There you go, stupid thing.
The community of STALKER players loves, and I do mean loves, a grind. These games are hard, but sometimes they're just not hard enough. Hence, present day, we have STALKER G.A.M.M.A, a sensational mod pack for STALKER Anomaly that has taken the Western STALKER community by storm. But you already know this. I made a video last week reflecting on how G.A.M.M.A is so popular that there's a possibility that it's creating a false expectation for STALKER 2. You might want to check that video out. But in that video, I mentioned that I wasn't too fond of G.A.M.M.A. Not that I dislike it, just that I'm not fond of it. And I'll confess that I didn't exactly know how to best articulate why. Going on to say that it's just an FU simulator and that's why. But, fellow stalkers, bandit soldiers, and monolith scum, I had not yet played a real FU simulator. Let me introduce you to Radiophobia 3. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlebros, this readaptation of Shadow of Chornobyl is the most punishing gaming experience I've ever had. And that's a little bit strange in terms of timing because I had just started playing this mod right after publishing a video calling G.A.M.M.A unnecessarily punishing. Radiophobia 3 started screwing me right away. And it did not quit for the entire playthrough. I went through every kind of screwing there is. A little bit of instant screwing. Big old slow screwing. I would even get screwed sideways. And sometimes I would get screwed by a rat with the plague straight up from underneath. Shoot, I would even get screwed from behind. Radiophobia, it just screws everybody, from you to your companions to important characters, which is a pretty bold thing to do in a story-centric mod. Remember, this is just Shadow of Chornobyl with loads of extras.
Really? They killed Fanatic?
But in spite of all this screwing, I loved every minute of Radiophobia. Mostly. But the good first, because for the first time playing STALKER, I found myself very carefully administering my artifacts because I truly needed their enhanced capabilities. I used to just pick up a single set of favorites and stick to them. Maybe I'd just bump into something better along the way. But here, I absolutely needed to adapt my artifact loadout to combat with humans, combat with mutants, just getting around, and even for when you're a special kind of hurt and just need to chill your wounds away. You see, Radiophobia throws a lot of issues your way, and it's a harsh economy, a hostile world, and a difficult mission you have in front of you, but that's pretty par for the course for STALKER. It's how STALKER is supposed to be. With Radiophobia though, it's all cranked to 11, which is great for folks with ADHD, constant stimulation, but without breaking the atmosphere. Though I'll admit that the major drawback to Radiophobia is the abundant mutant population. There's just too many of them. I'm not ashamed to admit that I would even turn on God mode just to get them out of my way because, not to spoil anything, you'll run into an amount of chimeras, packs of pseudo-dogs, beers, and others that is just simply too much to be fun. And they take a lot of damage before dying too, which just makes it a pain in the ass and not a challenge. It came to a point where the go-to answer to running into any mutants chasing me would be to just run to a duty checkpoint.
That's all you need.
But human combat? Oof. It really does not get any better than this. These guys act like what they are. Bandits are not good fighters, but they'll certainly put you down if you're careless. Mercs and soldiers, they're a whole different thing. They're patient, they're very good shots, they camouflage well, and they're ruthless with their suppressing fire and maneuvering. They'll flush you out of cover and tear you to pieces.
Стреляет! Не стреляет! Блядь! Fuck, they hate me. And the game crashed.
The monolith is actually how you'd expect the monolith to be. They show no regard for their own personal safety, and they'll just go at you. These monolith scum don't give a damn. And on top of it all, the weapons and sound design are also pretty incredible.
Твоя мета тут. Іди до мене.
So every time I found myself struggling, the only solution was to think. Why am I trying to fight out of every encounter? Sometimes you do have to pick flight over fight. Sometimes you have to dig in and soak pressure, so that the enemy tries to maneuver and you can finally take a shot or seep or draw fire so you can see their position. And by the way, the right answer to having any dangerous mutants chasing you in the open is to always run to the duty checkpoint.
I want to see the duty boys take care of a chimera. Dude, these duty boys are good at this thing. Look at that. They took care of that stupid, ugly, dumbass like it was just another dog.
It makes you think twice about laughing at Duty's dog situation memes because they're a real lifesaver. To fill in the blanks of all the other elements of the game, the economy is rough, but as you start getting simple jobs done and picking up loot, you can make some money which will allow you to buy and repair the equipment you need to do harder jobs that will pay you enough to where you can afford the things you actually want. It's progression that is challenging without being prohibitive. Sometimes dudes want artifacts and not money when it comes to their services like repairs, and that is a twist that I didn't love. But without it, I would have actually struggled more because it forced me to go dig for artifacts, and those artifacts are what made me survive in this ruthless world. So yeah, it's pretty wild. And by the way, let me just tell you this. Medical equipment is worth its weight in gold. It's rare and it's really expensive, but it's absolutely worth its weight in gold. Buy medical equipment. There's consequences to your actions and lack of action. Weapon maintenance and equipment repairs still matter, but it's not a game within a game either. Radiophobia 3 never handicaps the player for the sake of handicapping them and force them to spend 30% of their time of the game managing inventory clutter and crafting nonsensical recipes to get functional equipment. It doesn't force you into this boring crafting mechanic that doesn't stimulate my ADHD. So at the end of the day, that's the gripe I have with G.A.M.M.A. Again, I don't dislike G.A.M.M.A. It's just that if I'm gonna play Stalker, I'm already spending a chunky amount of time looking at an inventory screen while looting. The last thing I want to do is clutter my inventory and spend half of the time I have in-game with unintuitive crafting and organizing all the supplies I have and need to collect. Radiophobia doesn't handicap you. Handicapping the player is an egocentric implementation of difficulty. It's making the player weaker or less capable to make the world seem challenging. And look, I'm not trying to call you out if that's what you like to do, because if that's what you like to do, that's great. I want you to have fun however you figure you can. But to contrast what really gets me engaged, actually making the world and its economy challenging is allocentric in difficulty, which basically means that the game doesn't hate you when it kindly says, "F you, player." Rather, the game says, "You, bad guy, f those mutants at the duty checkpoint, f that important story character, f your companion, and f you, player, all your companions die. I don't want to go with you." And you as a player have to deal with it, just like presumably every other character in the game also has to deal with it. It just melts my heart to see this kind of game design. So it turns out that I do like FU simulators, just not the ones where I feel a special kind of FU. More like a community FU, you know? Inclusivity and shit. Because What I really want is to accept the world you put in front of me. That's what gets me immersed. And if you have a special set of rules for me, well, I'm just gonna feel like playing something that doesn't.